So, Dr. Woody, in this document, are the questions that they're asking related to the top part? Are they connected to each other, or are they separate questions?
They're separate questions. That's why I want to go over the question with you. Give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example. So, look at question number 1. Blank has a sign language, a deaf community, both A and B, neither A and B. Okay, that question I could ask you, Providence Island has a sign language, deaf community, both A and B, neither A nor B. Which one do you choose?
Are we on Martha's Vineyard? Marvin's asking. Martha's Vineyard?
No, I said Providence Island. I just skip around a little bit. So let's read the question again. Providence Island has a sign language, a deaf community, both A and B, neither A nor B. Which one do you
Jasmine's
pick?
answering A. And
Yes.
not just saying, what number are we on?
We're on question number 1.
Okay.
Question number
A.
1. A, yes.
Number
Okay.
1A.
Okay. Now we're still on question 1. Suppose I say Manila has a sign language, a deaf community, both A and B, neither A nor B. Same question, different area, Manila.
They're just clarifying it if it's
Yeah,
Manila or somewhere else. So
it's still the same question. It's still number 1, but we're asking number 1 question about Manila.
Okay, I see. Jasmine saying that's clear. Sorry, sir. I understand.
Okay, so the question we're talking about now would say,
Jasmine saying C. Renz is saying C. Shaq is saying C.
yes, okay, let me just repeat the question. Manila has A, a sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B. So some of you said C. Does everybody agree with that?
C. I'm getting mostly C.
Say again? About
C.
B or C?
C. I'm getting mostly C. No other answer. Just C.
Okay, C is the correct answer. Okay. So now we can go through question number 1 with each of those 12 places. Okay.
Yes, sir. 12.
Okay, so what about Bancour Village? What's the answer if you ask Bancour Village for that question? A or C?
A, Jasmine saying. A, Renz is saying. Not is
Yes,
saying A.
yes. What about Vietnam?
One moment. Okay.
Actually, Shak missed the question, the recent question. So he's asking about Bangkor. He was able to answer it.
Encore has a sign language, B, a deaf community, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B. Encore Village.
For Bangkor, it's A, Jasmine saying.
Yes. And
A.
what about
Wait.
asking? Hmm?
Meng is confused. Actually, he's asking what number are we now?
We're on question one. We're asking question one about different communities. There are 12 different communities. We can ask number one about 12 different places. Okay, so we already talked about Providence Island. We talked about Manila. Well, now we're talking about Bangkor. Khor.
So Jasmine's just explaining to everyone that it's the same question, but we're going to switch the place.
Yes,
So it's going to be the
correct.
same multiple choice, A, B, C, D. We're just going to switch the place, and so
Right.
that everybody's on the same page. Is that clear, Meng? Kyla saying, say it again. Maybe we can spotlight Jasmine, okay? All right, guys. I just want to clarify. I know some of you are a little bit confused. So we're focusing just on number one. And with those multiple choices, A, B, C, D, which was mentioned, same one. A, B, C, D, sign language, deaf culture, A, B, and the brownout. Shaq saying brownout. She just got browned out. There's a brownout. Okay. Shaq is saying, okay. So, Dr. Woody, I just want to clarify because a lot of people are trying to figure out what number we're on, but we're just on number one, right? So we're
Yes.
just going to have the same options: A, B, C, D, sign language, deaf culture, A, B, and nothing. And then we're going to
Exactly.
apply the 12 places like Martha's Vineyard to number one, or Providence Island to number
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So that's pretty much what we're going to do.
Correct. Correct.
So now Bangkor vesting recently. And the answer is what's the answer? What do you think the answer is? A. Who says A? A.
Right.
So Jasmine saying, sorry, I'm back. I just forgot to plug in the battery.
Right.
Sample questions.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd like to follow up with what Shak is saying. Okay, so now we're on question one still. We have 12 different places. Okay. For places number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, is the answer the same or different? for the places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Martha's Vineyard, Providence Island, Reno Island, Vancouver, Atamorobe. The answer to number 1 going to be the same or different?
Same, and then not saying different.
Right. So number,
Yeah, me saying is half, half, half same, half different.
number 1 through 5? Different? Places number 1 through 5, different or the same?
The same rather, the same. Everyone's
Right,
saying the same,
right.
the same.
And then for question number 1, places 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Same or different?
I'm seeing different. I'm seeing same. Shaka is saying different. Renz is saying it depends. Okay, it's C. It's all. They're all C.
They're all
Patrick is
C,
saying.
right? So
Patrick is
number
saying
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 places. The answer to question 1 is A, just the sign language. No deaf community. The answer to numbers 6, places numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is going to be C, both a sign language and a deaf community. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so I want you to think about it in that way. In general, questions 1 through 10 for the first 5 places, the answers will be similar. Okay, but for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 places, the answer will be also the same, but it will be different from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Nat has a question.
The first
Nat,
10 questions, the first 10 questions. Okay, you're making this too difficult. It's
sir.
very,
Nat has a question for the 8th place, Solomon Island. The answer is A as well.
no, it's
So
not
6,
true.
7.
Solomon Islands is a whole country. Reno Island is one island. Solomon Island is a whole country. Solomon Island is like US, is like Manila.
So the answer is C for Solomon Island.
Yes, yes.
Ah, okay. Okay, I understand now, sir.
Okay. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The answers are going to be very similar. Okay, let's look at question number 2. Let's look at, let's say, Bangkor. Look at number 4. Bangkor has a sign language, a separate deaf identity, both A and B, neither A nor B.
Chuck saying now we're on number 2. Everybody, we're on number 2.
Yes, number 2.
So Ray is saying B. B.
Who's saying B?
Ray is saying B. Kyla saying A.
So what does it mean to have a separate deaf identity?
Sorry. People are just answering it's A. It's A.
Yes,
It's
it's
A.
A. It's A, sign language. But deaf
Rents.
people don't think of themselves as different from hearing people. They don't form a community. Okay. All right. So if I ask the same question about Martha's Vineyard, Providence Island, Rennell Island, and Atamorobe, is it going to be the same answer, A, for number 2?
It'll be the
Again,
same. Shaq is saying it'll be the same.
yes, the
It'll be
same,
all A. It'll be all
all
A.
A, right. And what about for Solomon Island, Colombia, Thailand, Vietnam? What's the answer going to be? Number 2?
All the same. Sorry. C, not saying. B,
Yes, C, both a sign language and a separate deaf identity. Yes.
Yami's saying, oh, I'm out. I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand.
Yami, do you have a sign language? Just answer that question. Do you have a sign language?
Sorry, I missed what we were talking about in the beginning part. So that's why I'm out.
It doesn't matter. Just answer my question. Do you have a sign language?
What area are you talking about, sir?
You, Yami, do you have a sign language?
Me? Oh, yes. Right, sir. Yes, I do. I have a sign
Okay.
language.
Do you have a deaf identity?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then people in other countries like Vietnam, Solomon Islands, Thailand, they're going to be the same as you. They're going to have a sign language and a deaf identity. Deaf people in Thailand and Vietnam, similar to you. Okay, but what about deaf people on Providence Island?
Yes, just sign language.
Yes, it's a sign language. Do they have a deaf identity separate from hearing people?
No, sir. No.
Right, so the answer for the island communities and the villages is A. The answer for the countries is C.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all. You didn't miss anything.
Oops. Okay, sorry. Lost the interpreter there.
Okay. That clear, Yami, now?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Okay. You didn't miss anything. Okay, don't worry. I'm not going to let you miss anything. Okay. Let's go to question number 3. So again, for question number 2, the answer for the small communities is A, sign language.
Yes, they're all A.
Yeah, and the
saying
answer
all
for
A.
all the large communities is going to be, large countries is going to be C. Okay. What about number 3? So,
It'll be A. It'll be like A, C, A, like A for the first part, C for the last part.
Exactly. So it's going to be a very, if you remember and don't get too excited, you should get a good grade on this test. You can also look at your PowerPoint. Okay, it's just different ways of asking the same question. Okay, but number 4 is a little different. Okay, does Manila have a deaf a deaf community, B, a separate deaf identity, C, both A and B, and D, neither A nor B. Manila. You have a deaf community? Yes, you're part of the deaf community.
C.
C,
C.
right.
C.
Now be careful for the next answer. What about Aramorobe Village or Providence Island? Does Providence Island have a deaf community?
A. A. Yami saying A.
No, you didn't read the question.
D.
Number 3.
Patrick is saying
Sorry,
D.
number 4. Does Providence Island have a deaf community? A, does it have a deaf community?
No.
Does it have a separate deaf identity? No.
No. Yes. No.
Yes
So,
or no? Which one?
so the answer is D, not saying. So
D. D.
D.
Neither
D.
A nor B.
So the answer
So
is D. We're saying D.
a community and an identity and a culture go together. So you have to, when you ask about community and identity or community and culture or identity and culture, you have to have, the answer is the same. But when you ask about a sign language versus a deaf culture, those are two different kinds of things. Does that make any sense?
Yes, sir. Ren's is
Okay.
saying yes.
Yeah, so if you have a deaf identity, you're going to have a deaf community. And if you have a deaf community, you have to have a separate identity. If you have a community, you will have a separate culture.
We'll do a switch interpreter.
All right. So, is culture and identity related? Yes. So therefore, what about Rennell Island? Is there a separate deaf culture?
Yeah, Jasmine saying yes.
Rennell Island? How many deaf people on Rennell Island?
Shak is saying D.
Yes, D is the correct answer.
Meng is answered there's only one deaf.
Right, so there's not going to be a community and there's not going to be a separate culture. So D is the answer.
Ray is asking, are we in number 4 or number 5?
Well, either 5 or 6. I don't know. What 5 is fine.
Shak is saying the answer is letter D.
Okay, Shak, why is that?
Natalie is asking, I've seen Shak signing letter E, not D.
Shak is signing what? Sorry. I'm having
Nathaniel is saying, I've seen Shak signing not letter E, not letter D, but E.
There's no E, just D.
Okay, Ashak wants to say something. The answer is D, meaning the Rennet Island, there's no community, no interaction with other people, there's no identity and no culture, neither. So the answer is letter D. He interacts with the hearing people.
Yes, but there were no other deaf people for him to interact with. So therefore.
Yes. So there's no deaf culture.
Yeah.
No, not. The answer
Okay.
is D.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, number 6. Well, let's take number 5 again. So what about Vietnam? Does it have a separate deaf culture? If you don't know about Vietnam, talk about Philippines.
Yami is saying yes. Meng is saying yes. Jasmine is
Yes.
saying no.
Who's saying no?
Jasmine, the answer is D for Jasmine.
Okay, how would you answer Manila? Manila has, question 5, Manila has a separate deaf culture, a separate deaf identity. C, both A and B. D, neither A nor B. How would you answer for Manila?
Meng is saying C, also Ray, and Shak, Tibbs, Kyla is C, and also Yami. But Jasmine, wait. In Manila, are you talking about Manila? We have separate. We have own identity. We have own community. Is that the
Right.
question?
So is Vietnam the same or different from Philippines?
The same. The
Yeah,
same.
that's what I said. So if you
That's what.
ask about Vietnam, then it has to be C, both a deaf culture and a deaf identity.
Yeah. So the answer is C. Ray said.
Say again?
Ray said the answer is C. The answer
Yes.
is C.
Yes. Okay. So number 6. Let's take Thailand. Thailand has a separate deaf community, B, a separate deaf culture, C, both A and B, D, neither A nor B. Thailand.
Yeah, I can see C. Everybody's saying C except Kyla and Ray. The rest they are saying letter C. Just like
C.
Manila. Yami said. Just like
Yeah,
Manila,
right.
the answer is C.
Yeah. So Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, like Manila. Okay, but what about Providence Island? Does Providence Island have a separate deaf community?
No. Yami said no. He's saying no. Shak is saying letter D. Renz D. Um, Marvin is saying there's no option for letter F.
Okay, is there a separate deaf culture on Providence Island?
Wait, Jasmine saying the answer is C, right?
No. Providence Island has a deaf community, yes or no?
Yami is saying no.
Right.
Jasmine is saying letter D. Meng is saying
D.
no.
D is in David. It doesn't have a deaf community and it doesn't have a deaf culture. Okay, I'm not sure if that's clear.
Ray is asking, are we number 6? And the answer is letter D.
Yes. So Manila has both, C. Thailand has both, C. Vietnam has both, C. Providence Island has neither, D. Reno Island has neither, D. So again, the answers to the island communities are going to be the same for each island, and for small communities, and for the large communities, it's going to be different from the small communities. Okay, any question on number 6?
We're good. Renz is saying we're good.
Okay. Number 7. In Manila, most of the deaf people sign. A. B. Most of the hearing people sign. B. C. Both A and B. And D. Neither A nor B. In Manila.
Yami is saying A. Meng, Jasmine, Ray. The answer is A. Shak, A.
Yeah, I mean, do most of hearing people you know sign? No, most of the deaf people do. So A is the answer to that. There are
Yes, the
some
answer is A.
there are some hearing people who sign in Manila, but not the majority. If you go out on the street and start signing with people, most people are not going to understand you. Okay, what about Providence Island? In Providence Island, most of the deaf people sign. A. B. Most of the hearing people sign. C. Both A and B. D. Neither A nor B.
This is saying B. Yami, Jasmine C. Marvin saying B. Nathaniel's also saying B.
So
Shak is saying
anyone,
B.
they're saying B as in boy.
Boy, yeah, B.
So deaf people don't sign? Just the hearing people go around signing with each other?
Jasmine saying C.
C, yes. The hearing people sign and the deaf people sign to each other. So in the island communities, hearing and deaf people sign. In the larger countries, urban areas, only the deaf people sign.
Yes, that's right. Yami is
Right.
saying yes. That's right.
Okay. So number 8 is a little bit different here.
I think Shak is raising his hand.
Yeah, Shock.
I am a little confused with the answer about Providence Island. The answer is C, right? But most of the deaf there, there's only one deaf in there, right?
No, that's Rennell Island. Rennell Island. Providence Island, there are about 20 deaf people.
Oh, so it's not Providence Island. Okay, now I'm confused. Okay. That's clear. Yeah, it's now clear.
So what's the answer for Rennell Island then, sir? Shaq is asking.
Well, how many deaf people are there?
One.
One. How many sign?
How do we answer that, sir?
No, how many sign? If there's one deaf person, how many of the deaf people sign?
One.
One, it's 100%.
Also, that's the answer.
Yeah. But I'm not going to ask you a question like that.
Okay, wait. So now I'm confused. So in Rennell Island, the answer is both.
Yes.
Both,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so the answer is C.
C.
So the answer is C.
C. The answer is C for Rennell Island.
Because both hearing and the deaf are signing.
Yes. C. All right.
So yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to look at another question. Okay, question number 8 is a little bit different. You need to know where these places are. So Martha's Vineyard, where is that near for number 8?
Pibbs is saying C.
Yes.
Ray is saying it's in the middle. So the answer is D. Ray is saying
No,
D. Yami is saying D. Is it part of, is it in
Martha's
America?
Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is next to Massachusetts in North America. It's C. Sorry, it's, let me see which it is. North America, C, as Peep said. Okay, but what about Providence Island?
D. The answer is D. Peeps is saying D. Shak is saying D.
D is
Jasmine
in
is
David.
asking, are we in Providence Island, right? It's
Providence
in the center
Island.
of the US, of America. It's in the center of
Providence
America.
Island is near Nicaragua, which is in Central America. So the answer is D for Providence Island. You can look on, for this question, you need to look on your PowerPoint and be able to answer.
Okay, Yami is saying C. D, sorry.
Yeah. Yami's saying B or D?
D, 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 D.
Isn't David?
David.
Yes, okay, C, that's correct. Okay. Bangkok Village, where is it located? What country does it belong to?
Asia.
Asia, right. So B.
Asia. So the answer is B.
Adamorobe Village belongs to Africa. It's in Ghana. These you can find the answer on your PowerPoint to this question. No
the answer
problem.
is B.
Yes. For which one? The answer is B for which one? Which country?
For number 8.
For which country?
Bangkok. Kayla is saying Bangkok.
Yes, Bangkok is in Asia. What about Adamorobe?
It's in Africa.
Yes.
It's in Africa. Yami is saying it's in Africa.
Right. So you can find the answer to those questions. Okay. Now, Providence Island belongs to which of those countries? You can find the answer in your handouts, but it is.
Kayla is asking, are we in number 9?
Yes.
Ray is saying it's in Colombia.
Yes, yes. So you can find the answer to number 8 and 9 in your handouts.
Am I right? Ray is asking, am I right? It's in Colombia.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Okay, well, it's time to take a little break and give the interpreters a break. So we'll come back in about 10 minutes, a little after 3 your time. And we'll talk again about number 8 and 9. And then we'll continue with the rest of the review. Okay? Almost finished. Well, not almost finished, but we'll finish soon. Okay, let's stop for now and come back in 10. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back and see if you have any question on number 1 through 8.
Nat has a question.
Mm-hmm.
For number 8, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, number 8, right. Okay. Colombia is where exactly? Is that in South America?
Yes, but Providence Island is not near Colombia. It belongs to Colombia. Let me pull up a map and show you. Or take a look at the map in the handout. So you'll see that Providence Island is near Nicaragua. It belongs to Colombia, but it's near Nicaragua. So it's not, it's near Central America, but Colombia is in South America. It's not near Colombia, even though it belongs to Colombia. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so question number, any other question?
Ray
Mm-hmm.
is trying to get Ember's attention. Okay, number 8.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Providence Island.
Yes.
It's in Colombia,
No,
right?
it belongs to Colombia. But it's near Nicaragua. Okay. Yes. Question?
Nat has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Same question for Rennell Island.
Mm-hmm.
So for Rennell Island, number 8, the answer is, I can't remember, sir. What was it for
It would
Rennell
be,
Island?
it's near Asia, but it's not really in Asia. So I would put down none of the above. It's in the Pacific islands. So best answer for Rennell Island is none of the above.
Renz is asking, what was that number you're talking about? I missed it. Was that number 10?
Number 8.
Jasmine saying it's number 8.
Rennell Island is in or near. F, none of the above.
For Rennell Island. Rennell Island.
Yes.
So none of the above. F.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Renz is also asking what number we're on again. 8. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so if we do number 9, for the islands and the small villages, Bangkok village belongs to A, Thailand. Rennell Island belongs to B, Solomon Islands. Adamorobe village belongs to C, Ghana. Martha's Vineyard belongs to D, USA. And Providence Island belongs to E, Colombia. It belongs to Colombia, but it's near Nicaragua. Colombia is in South America, Nicaragua is in Central America. What about Vietnam? What does Vietnam belong to?
Ray saying B. Asia.
Now, which question are we on? I thought we were on question number 9. Vietnam is in or near Asia. That's correct. What about number 9? Vietnam belongs to?
People are answering F. F.
F, yes, yes. And Manila? Let's do 8 and 9 for Manila.
F. Everyone's saying F.
Okay, we're number 9. What about 8? Manila?
B.
Yes.
B.
Asia. Yes.
Asia.
Yes. Okay, number 10. Number 10 is not much of a tricky question. The Arctic Ocean is in the north near the North Pole, so that's not going to be an answer. So either you have to decide, is it east or west of the US? If it's east of the US, it's in the Atlantic. If it's west of the US, it's in the Pacific. Well, those are only true for islands. For example, if you say Thailand, Thailand is located in none of the above. It's not in any ocean. It's by itself.
Sorry, can you do it again? Say it again, sir. Shaq is saying
Okay, number
for
10. Number 10, okay? Is it east of the US or west of the US? East of the US is the Atlantic Ocean. West of the US is the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so Rennell Island is located in which ocean?
Pacific.
Yes,
Not saying Pacific.
yes, yes. Okay. Don't worry about that question too much. It'll be pretty easy like that. Okay, so some other questions here, starting after number 10. Now, this is a little tricky. You have to think very carefully. What is the difference between may and must? May means maybe, must means have to. Okay, so if an area has a sign language, it may have a deaf community, it must have a deaf community, neither A or D, neither A nor B, or I can't answer that question, impossible to answer that question from the data.
What place, sir? What place is this? Not asking. What
Right
place are we
after
talking?
number 10, right after number 10. If an area has a sign language, A, it may have a deaf community. B, it must have a deaf community. C, neither A nor B, or it's impossible to answer that question, D.
Are we talking about Martha's Vineyard? Shaq's asking.
It doesn't matter. You can use Martha's Vineyard, yeah, okay. Okay. So Martha's Vineyard has or has not, it does have a sign language. Does it have a deaf community?
People are answering C. Marvin's answering D.
Okay, let's go back and think a little bit. So if in Martha's Vineyard, was there a deaf community or not?
No. And
Okay,
Ray
so
saying yes.
Huh?
Everyone's saying no. Ray saying yes.
No, it wasn't a deaf community in Martha's Vineyard. So B cannot be correct. Okay. But what about Manila? It has a sign language. Does it have a deaf community?
Shaq is saying yes.
Yes.
B.
So some places with sign languages have a deaf community, some do not. So what's the answer?
Meng is saying Pacific. Nat is saying we're in the next question, Meng. We're the next question.
Yes, if an area has a sign language, it must have a deaf community. That's not correct because Martha's Vineyard has a sign language and no deaf community. So B is not correct. What about A? Martha's Vineyard has a sign language and no deaf community. Manila has a sign language and a deaf community.
Peeps is saying yes. Jasmine saying yes.
Right?
Uh,
So
Not saying A.
A, yeah, it may have
A.
a deaf community. It may have a deaf community, but we don't know. So Martha's Vineyard doesn't, and Manila does. So maybe A is the answer.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's clear. Nat
Okay.
is saying yes.
Okay. So let's look at the next question. If an area has a sign language, it may have a deaf culture.
Kyla
It
has a
must.
question.
Yes.
I think that's Kyla has a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
So before we were talking about Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
It has a sign language and it has no deaf community. So the answer is
Right.
D, right, sir? D.
No.
Am I correct?
What about Manila?
Yes, Manila has a sign language and a deaf culture.
Right. So
They're separate.
maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Well, the answer is A.
A, okay, Manila is A. Okay.
No, not Manila, any place. So we look at all the place, any place. If, so read the question very carefully. If an area, a location has a sign language. If. So Martha's Vineyard has a sign language and Manila has a sign language. What do we see? One has a deaf culture, the other does not. Or one has a deaf community, the other does not. So the answer is may. Okay,
So it's A, right. Shaka is saying.
number 11, or no, sorry, the next one. If an area has a sign language, A, it may have a deaf culture. B, it must have a deaf culture. And neither one of those is correct. Or D, it's impossible to answer the question. So go back. Martha's Vineyard has a sign language. Does it have a deaf culture?
No. No.
Okay. So we know that B, must have a deaf culture, is not correct. Manila has a sign language and a deaf culture. So one does, the other doesn't. So it's may again. It may have a deaf culture.
So the answer is may A. A.
A, yeah.
A.
Okay. And the same is true of the next one about sign language and deaf community. It may have a separate sign language and deaf identity. A, it may have a different deaf identity. But the next one, if an area has a deaf community, it may have a sign language or it must have a sign language.
Must, I think, not to say
Yes.
must.
Right,
Must.
must. Right. Yes, correct. If an area
B.
has a deaf community, it may have a deaf culture or it must have a deaf culture.
So it's must. Yeah, must.
Must, right. If an area has a deaf community, may have a separate deaf identity or must have a separate deaf identity.
Must. Meng is
Must.
saying B. B.
Yes, must. Because if a community doesn't have a separate identity, it's not going to be a community. Okay. All right. So if an area has a deaf culture, it may have a sign language or must have a sign language.
Must.
Must, yes.
B.
And if it, yes. How are people going to communicate without a sign language? If an area has a deaf culture, it may have a deaf community or it must have a deaf community. So can you have a deaf culture and then deaf community and then no deaf culture? No, must have a deaf community and deaf culture together. Community is a group of people, culture are the rules for the group of people.
Renz is saying B. Must.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, and if an area has a deaf culture, it must have a separate deaf identity. And then the last question, I'm not going to tell you the answer, you have to tell me. Which of those have more deaf people than Reno Island? How many deaf people does Reno Island have?
So just one, not to saying, and then I'm seeing answers D, A, and D. I see D, A, and
Yes. All of the places have more deaf people than Reno Island because Reno Island only has one. And there's more than one deaf person on Martha's Vineyard, more than one on Providence Island, and more than one on Vancouver. Okay. So those are all the questions. I'm going to ask you now if you think you have any more questions you want to clarify now. If not, we stop on this for now. And then tomorrow, if you have any question, you can ask me about deaf culture questions tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we will have the test.
okay, sir. Sounds good, Ray's saying.
Okay. All right. Now, on Thursday, we will probably have the same as we did before, 3 short quizzes. Okay. And then you can look on your PowerPoints for any of the answers. Okay. Want to make sure Shot got that one because the first time he didn't see that.
Yes,
Okay.
I understand, sir.
Okay, just teasing you now. So, okay. All right. All right, we'll stop now for just make sure there are no more questions that you have burning question you have right now?
None at the moment. No, no
Okay.
questions.
All right. So then tomorrow I will ask you at the beginning of class and at the end of class if you have any more questions. I'm not going to review this again. Okay. But you can ask any question tomorrow. And then Thursday you will have the quiz. Okay. Now for today, I want to ask you, how many of you have seen the video on Deaf President now?
It looks like everyone has their hand up.
Okay, all right, good. So what I'd like to talk with you about now is, what are your feelings about what you saw? But Yami say you haven't seen it yet?
No, Yami saying Renz hasn't seen it yet,
Oh,
and
Renz
Renz saying
hasn't
no,
seen it.
no, I've seen it. He's saying, wow, it's very empowering, deaf empowerment.
Yeah,
Go, deaf people, go, go. Yami saying no, but remember you said you didn't watch it last time, and anyway, then Kyla's saying go, go, go. Shaka's saying great. You know, there was so much noise and everyone was banging on the drums and there were so many deaf people. It was awesome.
yeah.
It happened for an entire week, Yami's saying, the protest, and
Yeah,
they were successful. Kyla's
yes,
saying, yeah, yeah, and Shaka is saying there was so much support, and you know there were. It's like the Philippine Federation of the Deaf, where
mhm,
you know, where we have to rally together to, you know, fight for something.
yes.
And unlike in the Filipino, you know, to pass the FSL bill, it took years. Yami saying for them it took 1 week.
Yeah, but you have to remember, when was Gallaudet founded? 1864. 1864.
64.
Okay, or yeah, 65 it became National Deaf Mute College. 64 it was able to grant degrees. So when was the first president, deaf president? Not until 1988. So 1988 minus 1864.
Everyone's calculating.
19.
125. 100.
Yeah, so 125 years. So you only been talking about Filipino Sign Language for 50 years. People at Gallaudet have been talking about a deaf president for 100 and something years. This is why they were fed up. 124 years. So,
124 years. Yes, Yami saying
yeah,
it's 24, not 25.
yeah, 120. Anyway, yeah, but it was a long time, a long time. Okay. So the question,
Sub-interpreter. Sub-interpreter.
all right, we're all set to go. Okay.
Great.
So what did you think about the deaf person who was chosen as president?
The hearing woman, you mean, sir?
No. Okay, there were three people chosen as finalists. The hearing woman, okay, her name is Zinser, Zinser. She had a name sign, Sinner, Sinner. No. All right, she was hearing. She was a nurse. She had no sign language. She'd never met deaf people before. Okay. Second, King. King became deaf when he was 18 years old. He was in a motorcycle accident. Okay, and then the other person was named
I thought he was
Harvey.
21. Was he 21? 21 years old when he got the accident, sir? Shaq is asking.
I think 18. I think 18. Anywhere between 18 and 21. I think you're thinking about E.M. Gallaudet became principal of the Columbia Institution when he was 21. I'm not sure. Anyway, you can check on that online and let me know what you find out. Okay. King was married to a hearing woman. Okay. He had been dean of the School of Arts at Gallaudet. Worked there many years. He was in the psychology department. And the third person was Harvey Corson, Harvey Corson. He was deaf of deaf parents, married to a deaf woman. So, how deaf was King? How much? Yeah, not half. Not really what you would think of as a really, really deaf person. But in this particular instance, he was identified as deaf by deaf people and accepted as deaf, probably because he had been on the faculty of Gallaudet and he had been promoting deaf issues. But I don't think King would have been chosen today. If those three people were present today, I think Harvey Corson would have been chosen because he embodies more the deaf culture, deaf parents, deaf history. He was superintendent of a school for the deaf, fluent ASL user. King can sign well, but he tended to use SimCom and not ASL. So, but it's a beginning. It's a beginning, and it's an important beginning. And for many countries, you know, people like when I showed this to people in Laos, there was one deaf woman who became deaf about the age of 5. And what was her reaction to this? She cried. She was so moved by this that she cried because she had never seen deaf people, as you say, become empowered in this way. So it's a powerful movement, but we need to interpret it in the context of when it happened. When it happened, he was the first deaf president now. But in fact, he might not have been chosen if it was happening today in 2020. Maybe Harvard Corson would have been chosen. Okay, there's an interesting story. When King retired, he was hoping that another deaf woman who worked under him would be appointed president. But in fact, there were protests about this other deaf woman, and there were different reasons. Some people said she wasn't, quote, deaf enough. Okay, and whatever that means, you know, so it wasn't like she was too much in terms of what people felt King was like, and they wanted someone more powerfully deaf. Other people felt that she wasn't in deaf people's best interest, that she was deaf enough, but she wasn't really promoting a lot of deaf rights issues. So there was another protest, I think it was around 2006, I was not, I was at Gallaudet for the Deaf President Now protest, and I participated in that. But I wasn't present for the second protest. So I don't really understand it well enough. I mean, I know the person they were protesting against, and it seemed like to me, she went up and down in terms of her deafness, promoting deafness, if you know what I mean. So for example, sometimes she was promoting ASL and deaf culture, and other times she was saying that wasn't so important, that the important thing was Gallaudet as an educational institution. But because Gallaudet is a deaf cultural institution as well as an educational institution, you can't really separate out deaf issues from educational issues. Anyway, I'm going to have another person who was deaf and who was at Gallaudet during the time of the second protest in 2006. I'm going to ask if she can talk with you for 20 or 30 minutes. I think we can arrange it. She's in the US right now, so time difference will be large, but maybe she can record. Anyway, but you can ask her questions also about this. She's deaf of deaf parents, 4th generation. So parents deaf, grandparents deaf, great-grandparents deaf. And her niece, deaf. So actually five generations. She's in the 4th generation. Okay. So anything else you want to discuss about the Deaf President Now?
So what was the name of the third candidate again?
Harvey, Harvey, Corson, Corson. He was the principal of the Louisiana School for the Deaf. Well liked, okay. But it's pretty amazing when you look at Gallaudet and you know, that the fact that the board of directors would choose a woman who was a nurse, who didn't know how to sign, who had never met deaf people, they would choose her as president. Okay. But the Deaf President Now movement had a big effect on Gallaudet, because the woman who kind of manipulated her friend, Spellman, Spellman. So anyway, she was pretty much forced to resign from the board of directors. So Zinsser wasn't on the board. She was just a friend of Spellman's. Okay. And so now the board of directors of Gallaudet has to be 51% deaf. At the time before, the time of the protest, the board was predominantly hearing. And many colleges in the US are this way, because the board of directors, the function of the board of directors is to give money to the school. Okay, and if you're on the board of directors of a university, then I'm on the board of directors of the university. I'm famous. Okay. So that's starting to change, and people are becoming more accountable that, you know, it's not just to be famous, it's to help the university. Okay. All right. Okay. And the 4 students, a very powerful group, who were leaders. I think one of them, the man who, forgotten his name now, with the blondish hair, the light color hair, he's a deaf lawyer now. And the others are,
I think Ray has something to say.
yes, uh-huh.
This is again. You're freezing Ray.
So I think he's just mentioning the names of those deaf people. He's freezing, so I think he's just mentioning the name. Gerald Ovel.
Jerry Corvell.
I think Pibbs is raising his hand.
Peeps.
When we went to the US 2013. Okay.
We just ask.
Last 2013, we went to the US. I'm with Ray at the time. We went there. And then we met Greg. What was that? Sorry.
Halbach, the deaf lawyer.
Leibach, yeah. Now I remember.
And we communicated.
He's in the Communications Commission, and he established VRS. He helped establish video relay.
Relay service, yeah.
Yeah, so that's right. That was him that started video relay. And so I did meet Greg in the past. I've met him before.
Yeah.
He's kind of an easygoing kind of guy. And then
Good.
Ray's saying he's married, right? He's married.
Yeah, we saying we cannot understand what Pibbs was saying.
Yami couldn't understand her signing.
Greg signing or Peep signing? The interpreter said you couldn't understand his signing, so I wasn't sure which signing.
Because
okay.
you signed like this. So I don't know what you're talking about. That's what
Yeah.
she said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ASL and the Filipino Sign Language are related, so you can see some similarities, but it depends on what the communication is about, what vocabulary, what the topic, as to how much you will understand. Yeah. And because he's well educated, he's a lawyer, he was probably using a bit more English in his signing. So it probably wasn't pure ASL. And if he'd been using pure ASL without English influence, it would have been easier to understand. Probably, but whether you would have understood it or not is another question. So sometimes when you sign Filipino Sign Language, I can understand without problem. Other time, I don't understand.
It's like some of them are nodding their heads.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes when you see me sign, maybe you understand, sometimes you don't understand. So it depends on the topic and whether I know FSL equivalents for some ASL signs or not. You know, so for example, like 30 or 13. Okay, so, yeah. you know, if you understand that, if you don't understand that, you can get very easily lost. But I remember going to conference in Philippines in 1994, and the interpretation, I don't know if people were trying to use more international signs or Filipino signs, but it, you know, I could understand a lot. However, informal conversation, not so easy to understand. Okay. Anything else? Any other comments? So you glad you saw DPN video? Or bleh, you don't like it?
It's good. I think Nathaniel is raising his hand.
Sorry, Ember, can you say again?
Nathaniel is raising his hand, Dr. Woody.
No. So I think it's important. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry, Nathaniel is raising his hand. Sorry. There's something
Okay.
wrong with me. So, okay. So we hope that CSB also will have a deaf director now.
Yes.
So maybe
Soon.
like we have deaf president in Gala,
Yeah.
we must have a deaf director now.
Yeah. But you have to have good educational levels. See, for example, when people were saying, deaf students were saying, okay, we have to have a deaf president now. They said, we have deaf people with PhD. We have deaf people with administrative experience. So it's easy to pick a deaf person for this. But if you don't have this kind of person with the right background, then you're saying put the person in even though they may have fewer qualifications. But in fact, in Jordan and Harvey Corson had equal qualifications to the hearing applicant. Okay. So some of you should plan on becoming different directors, not only of CSB, but also of departments at the college and also in schools for the deaf. Okay, but that means you have to continue and go on, at least master's degree.
Well, we have, Ray is saying we have Leo in Asdeas.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Good.
Leo.
Yeah, you know best. Okay, let's take a quick break.
Seems like Peebs is not here. Maybe he went out to get a bite. Yummy saying. Oh wait,
Did you?
Yummy, why are you tattling on me? I'm here watching you. I did not go out to get something to eat. Sir,
Oh,
sorry. No, I
went out
stayed
to-
here. What are you saying that I went out? Sir, sorry, I missed what you said. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you didn't go out to get something to eat. You went out to get something to drink, huh? Teasing you.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I saw you got the copy of the new PowerPoint I sent. To Peeps. Yeah. So
Yes.
have you been able to send that out to people? You might not have had a chance. So
Everyone's saying yes. No. Peebs is saying before actually class started,
Okay.
I sent it
Okay.
out.
All right. So now we have a choice. You can tell me what you prefer to do. Actually, probably two choices. So the first is I continue with the lecture that I finished the PowerPoint for today. And that may take us a little, an hour or a little bit more. And so then we can finish that up tomorrow after your questions. And then we can divide up tomorrow, and you can talk about how you want to divide into groups to represent the information for everybody, and if you can find more information. We can do that tomorrow. So I will continue today, and then we break tomorrow. Okay. Or we can break now, and then you can decide on, have an hour to decide, a little less than an hour to decide what you want to work on for tomorrow. And then I'll continue with the lecture tomorrow. I'm not sure I explained that clearly, as I'm feeling tired now. Let's try again. So today I will either continue, and tomorrow we break up into groups, and then you will do more information tomorrow than you would today. Or we can break up now into groups to discuss, and you can have a little time tomorrow to prepare also before we have any presentation. So which would you like to do?
Renz is saying we're doing with any topic, or is it deaf histories?
Sorry, say again, if we were doing with any topic or?
With deaf history, or was it the
No,
topic?
no, with deaf history. So in other words, you stop from where you cut off last time. I think it's, let me look at the PowerPoints.
Okay, sir, that's clear, right.
Right, or so we stop now, and then you talk about the PowerPoints up until and including deaf president now. Or I lecture on some new information, and then tomorrow you talk about where we stopped through deaf history through what I lectured today. So which way would you prefer to do it?
Everyone's saying let's do group work. Perhaps we can do the group work now.
Okay, okay. I
and
think
then
it's a
save the
good
rest for
idea.
tomorrow.
And I would like you all, even if when you're doing your presentation in your group, if you're not going to get to the deaf president now, so like, I like each group to talk about a little bit about their feelings about deaf president now. Okay, so let me look at the PowerPoint here. And so let's, okay, so if we have the PowerPoint, okay, I think where did we stop before? I think we didn't talk about,
74,
which one?
73, 74, you mean? The last slide was
Yeah,
74.
the last slide is 70.
70. So we have to do 54 to 72.
73.
50,
Right, so
to
or 72. So if we go back to where we stopped before 72, did we talk about Stokey yet or not? I don't think we talked about Andrew Foster yet either. We talked about Andrew Foster. But did we talk about Stokey?
We talked about Stokey, yes. We talked about him, yeah.
Okay. We talk about the dictionary. for the first publication. We ended, can you look at slide 60 and 61 and tell me if we went past that?
Sorry, this is for the interpreter. You mean discuss as in class or discuss as in groups?
Where you stopped your last presentation. Sorry. Okay, I understand now. Okay, so the question is, we went to slide 72. So before that, where did you stop your presentation? Who was the last group to present? I'm not sure that makes any
54,
sense.
54, sir, 54.
54, okay. All right, so then we do from 54
to 72,
stopped at
sir?
54, right? So do we start at 55? Is that correct? You didn't present about 55 yet, right?
We didn't present 54. People are saying 54, 54.
Sorry, 60.
54. The presentation stopped at 53, so we started at 54.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm not having some sound. 64?
54, 54,
54, okay. I couldn't hear if it's 50 or 60, sorry. The sound was not so clear. Okay, so we're going to start at 54, and then we go to 72. 54 to 72.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so then you just discuss and divide it up among yourselves. And then all of you take a little bit of time to discuss the DPN. So basically, everyone will stop at 71, and then each group will talk a little bit about DPN on slide number 72. Does that make sense? So 54 to 71. How many groups are we going to divide into? 3?
3 groups, sir, 3.
Okay. All right, so 54 to 71 divided into 3 groups, and then each group will add deaf president now, one slide or so. Doesn't have to be part of the same PowerPoint, can be a completely different PowerPoint. Okay?
Okay, sir, sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to stay online, and if you have any questions, you can ask me, but I'm not going to really talk right now. And then we can start tomorrow. I don't think you're going to have much time to finish. So tomorrow, maybe because you only have about 30 minutes now, 35 minutes. So I will give you more time tomorrow to prepare at the beginning, okay? And then probably it will take most of the day tomorrow with your to prepare and make your presentation. And then if you need more time, then we'll spend an hour preparing, and then I'll just go ahead and lecture, and then you have until the following week. So tomorrow you can decide if you think you can finish. Yeah, the presentation for tomorrow. I don't know. What do you think? I want to give you time to discuss, but do you think your presentations will be ready by tomorrow at 3?
Everyone's saying yes, yes.
Okay, okay. All right, we'll see. If you're ready at 3, then you can continue, or one group will continue. And then if for some reason you're not all ready, then I will continue, and you can do your presentations next week on Tuesday. We'll work it out tomorrow, okay? I want to make sure you have enough time to do a good presentation, but I also don't want to rush you. Okay? All right, so go ahead, and I'll be online till roughly 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock your time. Okay. Thank you to the interpreters.
Thank you. We'll stay as well, just in
Okay.
case.